Hey there, Heather, ho, there's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Stone Cold Hockey 78-79 playthrough of the Boston Bruins season to try to get Don Cherry the championship, or at least not to have him fired. As we take a look at the goal scoring leader, Guy Chouinard of the Flames with 22 goals, Marcel Dion, the legend, 21 goals for him, Daryl Sittler, 18. Our best point scorer for Boston, goal scorers, Wayne Cashman, who's 17th. Points wise, Marcel Dion leads with Brian Chartier second, Guy Chouinard third. Goals against, Billy Smith's the only one under two. My former goalie for Philly, 75 with Bernie Perron. He's doing pretty well, 8-2-1. Of course, had that eye injury in real life. Mario Lassard, third with a 10-5-5-2-4-5. Our goalies, Cheevers is 11-2-9-5. Gilbert's at 3-5-0. Um, as we look at the standings, the Flyers lead the Patrick Division, tied with the Rangers. Rangers do have a game in hand, but the others at 33 points, Atlanta at 29. Now, of course, in this version of the NHL in the late 70s, four divisions of four teams, except for the Norris that has five teams in it. So we had 17 teams before the WHA merger. And anyhow, got that going. So you have the top three based off of points no matter what. If you win your division, you're in. You're in the quarterfinals automatically. So, like, Chicago's got 28 points, but the Rangers have 36. But yeah, Chicago would make the quarterfinals automatically. The Rangers would have to play in the preliminary round, and it's 1-8 by points. And all that. I know that. Marcus 74-75 Flyers. We lost to the others. And we had the best point total of the 8 preliminary round teams. But we still won the cup. So yeah, Rangers, others 33. Atlanta's got 29 points. They have more than Chicago does. They would be winning the Smythe division. Chicago, Vancouver, and St. Louis are your three teams in the Smythe. Despite Vancouver, St. Louis, and Colorado, nobody's won more than 8 games. Chicago's almost has had as many ties as wins plus losses, but yeah, 8 wins. Pathetic. Even the lower teams in the Prince of Wales Conference, Toronto and Detroit, have 9 wins. So yeah, Vancouver, St. Louis, it's a turtle derby in the Smythe division. Buffalo and Boston tied in the Adams division, 14-9-3, right on the nose. Minnesota's third at 25 points. Toronto's got 20. North Division, LA, Pittsburgh, Montreal, the three teams. Man, Montreal's been slumping in this replay. Highlights wise, you see all that 14 hat tricks. Clark Gillies has a pair of them. La 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 la. Most memorable games so far: St. Louis, Minnesota, November 1st, when it was a 13 goal fest. Rangers Islanders, October 21st, when the Rangers looked good, like they were going to win, but the Islanders came back to score 4 straight goals. And then Toronto, St. Louis, on November 7th, when the Leafs were down 4-2 but still won. A lot of 25ers. Atlanta, Minnesota from December 2nd, when Atlanta was up 2-0 and botched it. And Atlanta, Vancouver, when it was a blew a 2-0 lead. Our best point total was 6-2 against St. Louis when we came back from 2 goals down. Let's look at the schedule. We go to Philadelphia, my former home, for the 74-75 team. And it's Wayne Stevenson in net against Gilbert. So Gilbert getting the start. Cheesy Cheevers getting the night off. Jim Patey also there. Philadelphia, Bernie Perrant the backup. Now, Stevenson had more of the starts because Bernie Perrant in, was it February? Yeah, it was February 1979 when he had a stick get into his eye hole in his mask, even though his mask was big, but like just had the tiny eye holes. It got in his eye hole, and basically his eye injury ruined his career. Robbie Moore, Pete Peters, and Rick St. Croix had to come in to fill in for him. For Boston, we have Rick Middleton, who we swiped from the New York Rangers for the one of Ken Hodge Sr., Peter McNabb, former great player and color commentator for Avalanche and Devils broadcast, RIP, John Animal Wensick, Gentleman John Rattel, Wayne Crashman, as we call him, 2 goals in Game 7 against the Habs, which was not enough. Taz O'Reilly, Donnie Marcotte, Bobby Schmoltz, LC Cord before he went to the Blackhawks, Bob Miller, who looks like Scrooge from Saved by the Bell. Dwight Foster, Kitchener. That's right, he was former Kitchener Ranger. Al Sims, good defenseman. Brad Park, who we fleeced from the Rangers as well. Dickie Redmond, Rick Smith, Gary Doak, Stan Jonathan, the guy who unfortunately was the person who got in trouble for that Game 7, 1979, too many men. It was his fault. He got a little overjoyed. Mike Shaker Walton, Tom Sonnian on the team, Dennis O'Brien, Mike Milbury, the man who the next year would attack a Ranger fan with his own shoe, Bill Bennett, and all that. For the Flyers, it's Bill Barber, Kitchener, former Kitchener Ranger, Reggie Leach, the Riverton Rifle, Rick McLeish, great player, Mel Bridgman, nobody. Blake Dunlop, Paul Holmgren, had a hat trick in the 1980 Stanley Cup Finals, and is an American player and used to be a NHL head coach. Bobby Clark, the captain. Bane Wilson, Tom Garance, Don Big Bird Selesky, Bobby Daly, Jimmy Watson, Bob Hound Cowie, Paul Evans, Ken the Rat Linsman on the team, Al Hill, known for his great job as a defenseman and all that for one day. Barry Dean, Rick LaPointe, Dick Hoyda, Moose Dupont still around, Hughes Preston, Dale Calendar, Frank Boff, and Kevin McCarthy. 4 minutes into the game. Penalty, it's O'Reilly. They score the Riverton Rifle from Ellen Bernstein. Did I talk about Barry Dean? Maybe I didn't. Much later. They score Jimmy Mack. Jimmy Mack. O'Reilly coming back. Strip from Kelly and Linsman. 2 minutes later. He scored. My name is Barry Dean, and I have some personality. I don't know how that Grease song goes. We're down 3-0. Fuck. That's the score. Ooh, what a rush. The Animal Wensek is 10 from Rick Smith and Bobby Schmeltz. Sorry. Yeah, the thing was, hello, I am an animal, and I feel no pain, from the Mudmen. It was a burnout. It was in the game burnout. And Bill Bennett gets hit. But anyway, we're down 3-1. We're in deep trouble. 4 minutes later. Who's better than the Flyers? Nobody. Mel Bridgman. His knife goes from McLeish. 5 minutes later, and Jonathan. Damn it. Delaying the inevitable, probably. 3 minutes later. No shot. And 5 minutes later, we can't score. Down 4-1. I'm putting Petty in the net. We're screwed. Rick McLeish trying to take advantage? No, sir. What they do with Bob Daly from Barber. 5-1. What is going on with this? We're slooping. We're trying to kill the clock. And select Big Bird with goal from Kelly Barber. Man, good Barber. I knew I could have gone with Philly, but the rules are Boston. 4 minutes later. Kitchener! There we go. 7-1. Jeez. We really need to pick up the pace. Selesky almost scored a second of the night. Petty did terrible in 20 minutes, giving up 3 goals. That's a 9 goals against. We lose 7-1. Yeesh. At least that wasn't the worst loss of the day. The Oilers crushed the Leafs 9-1. As Palmetier, the popcorn cake, got popped. It was 3-0 after 2 periods. Pearson, Henning, and Tonelli, but then goals by Bourne, Harris, Giles, Gillies, sorry. Pot then, Gillies with a hat trick. So, because we lose or tie, we are actually, the next game must be simulated for Boston. We would play Minnesota, and we tied them. Petty with the tie against Maloche. We scored Schmaltz, O'Reilly, Doken, Marcotte, but Minnesota goes by Sanusi, Young Hands, Al McAdam, and Glenn Sharpley. Toronto and Buffalo tied. Chicago crushed Detroit. Montreal crushed the Islanders. Man, the Islanders crushed Toronto, but got crushed by the Canadiens. And the Rangers beat the shit out of the Flyers. Yeah, it's funny. The Flyers beat the shit out of us, and then I guess they ran out of... They warmed up too much. So we would have played Vancouver, but we tied. We win 3-1, thank goodness. Hanlon losing the Cheevers. Goals by Taz, McNabb, and Rick Smith for Vancouver. Islanders crush the Kings. Montreal goes to St. Louis and win, and Washington meets Colorado. So we don't play on the 13th. Buffalo beats Chicago. Atlanta beats Detroit. Montreal beats Minnesota. Rangers beat LA. Okay. Pittsburgh beats St. Louis, and Vancouver Toronto tie. So our next game is against Washington, which we will have to play. Atlanta beats Colorado. Chicago beats Buffalo. Detroit and the Islanders tie. Wow. And Philly beats Pittsburgh. So we play Washington, and Jim Petty's surprisingly in the net against Gary Innes, thinking that Washington is going to suck. They're telling me something, are we? Anyway, Gary Innes with Jim Bedard, Bernie Wolf, and Rolly Boutin are your goalies for Washington. Here are their best guys. Dennis Baruch, the last Cleveland Baron to play in the NHL. Tommy Rowe, Bob Soroy, Guy Charon, who had the misfortune of playing over 700 NHL games, never getting into the playoffs. Ryan Walter, who would soon go on to Montreal. It was the big trade for, I think he was involved in that big trade that sent Langway and Langway back to Washington, and he went to Defenseman of the Year, aka Norris's, for Montreal. Robert Picard, I think he was traded to Montreal in that deal too. Rolf Edberg, Mark Loftus, Bob Girard, Rick Green, he was traded to Montreal. It was basically Rick Green for Langway. Blair Stewart, Michel Bergeron. That can't be Le Tigre. That has to be a different one. Paul Mulvey, Greg Carroll. Mulvey. Gordon Lane, Peter Skamara, Gary Riesling, Leaf Swenson, Jack Lynch, Jerry Meehan, Bill O'Reilly, Yvonne Labra, who was so good. Washington decided to retire to number 7. I don't think he deserved it and run along. 5 minutes into the game, we have a chance. We're the red die because we're the home team, and we miss. Much later. Nothing against Washington. Nothing at all. It feels like nothing at all. Nothing at all. 2 minutes later. Another 2 aggression. Just for Washington? No. Thank goodness for that. 4 minutes. We have a chance to Roy? No. 4 more minutes. They don't score. 2 minutes later. MacArthur Park, his 7 from Millbury and Redmond makes it 1-0 Booston. 1 minute later. For Ricky Green. Do we have a shot? McNabb tried to score but failed. But we're up 1-0 after 2. No big deal. 3 minutes later. They do. They score. Marouk, his 10th from Ryan Walter and Rick Green. To add all 3 of them couldn't go to Montreal after the 82 season. Peter Pumpkin Eater. That is number 13 from Crashman and Miller. 6 minutes later. Control, defense, action, no chance, no. Damn it, we had it. Ricky Smith. Slick Rick from Marquette and O'Reilly. So Slick Rick scoring. And Washington's going to get penalized. Ryan Walter. No, but Riesling. So we should be able to win. It is. It wasn't pretty, but a win's a freaking win. All right, on to the 15th, where Washington beats Minnesota. Our game. Do we play? Oh, we play the Rangers. Okay. We play those pesky Rangers. Philly hit Atlanta tie. Wow. Chicago crushes Colorado. Montreal beats LA in a 14-goal fest, 8-6 at La Rock over Graham. Montreal goes by Houle, Lambert, Ricebrill, Kitchener, Leffler, Serge, Leffler, Houle, and Jarvis. LA goes by Simmer, Marcel, Simmer, Hauer, Mike Murphy, and Steve Jansen. I remember reading Don Cherry's book in 1983 when he said that Doug Hallworth was his first round draft pick, and basically Harry Sinded wanted Hallworth to get a lot of time and not Mike Milbury, and Hallworth basically screwed everything up. Buffalo beats Minnesota. Pittsburgh shuts down Vancouver. Islanders beat St. Louis, and the Leafs shut down Detroit. Okay, so we host the Rangers in this game. And back to normal. Cheevers versus John Davidson. So we bring our best, they bring their best. With Ryan Thomas and Doug Soltart backing up. I think we saw the Rangers last video, but we'll try to see what we can do this video. You got Phil Esposito, the former Bruins icon, who really scored goals a ton when he came to Boston from the Blackhawks in that trade in 1967. Pat Hickey, Anders Hedberg from the WHA, Alf Nielsen from the WHA, from Sweden. Ron Duguay, who was a fashion icon, if you will. Mike McEwen, who was a good defenseman, then got traded to Colorado and basically got under Don Cherry's skin. So basically, Don Cherry will deal with Mike McEwen the next year. Gresh, decent defenseman for the New York Rangers in his early days. Will Kachuk, Kitchener, Danny Don Murdoch, who was pretty good, but drugs ruined him. Steve Fickers, Dean Talafus, Dave Maloney, Kitchener. Or was it Dan Maloney who was Kitchener Ranger? No, or Don Maloney. Well, there's Dave and Don Maloney. One of them Kitchener Rangers. Lucian Dubois, Carol Fadney on the team, former Bruin. Pierre Plante, Mario Marois, Eddie Johnstone, Nick Fituyu, Dave Ferris, Greg Polis, Mike Corney, and Dan Clark. Not Sean from Degrassi. It's going to be Marois. We have a chance, but they killed the zone on Middleton and Secord. Much later. Raiders score. Kitchener. Dave Maloney has 7 from Fickers and Hickey. 1-0. I have to yell Kitchener after it. Peter, Pumpkin Eater. His 14 from O'Reilly Market. Much later. They score! Duguay, his 10th from Alfie Nielsen, makes it 2-1. 2 minutes later, and they're down 2-1 to the Rangers. And no, this was not the season in which the shoe incident happened. Much later. A split. Was that hard? That's not Ranger, damn it. It's Rick Smith. And they could spend all 5 minutes scoring as much as they can. And we get another penalty. It's Schmaltz, so it's 5-on-3. And they score. I should have known. Gresh from Dave Maloney makes it 3-1. Fortunately, though, both penalties end. And we try to make some count. That's 2-0. Look at Constantine from Blaise Boston. Makes it 3-2. Five minutes later. Penalty in Boston. Well, Milbury whacks Dubois. He goes to the box. And they score. Guess who? Dubois. His 4 from Hedberg makes it 4-2. And 4-2. I think I'm just going to put Petty in the net. Yep, they score. McEwen from Pat Hickey makes it 5-2. So, yeah, basically, Cheevers is having his night 5 minutes later. They score. Danny Don Murdoch, his 6th from McEwen and Fadney, makes it 6-2. Espo hasn't touched us all day. What's with him? He's rattled. Get him. He didn't get him. 6-2. John Davidson does his job. 0-0 does his job, and we can't do our job. Even if Petty didn't play the third period, we were fucked. Not a good start. Not a good time. And we will go back to New York. Well, A, we can't do the game because we lost. That's the rule. The next game gets simulated. But also B, because the Rangers would appear twice in the video. Actually, no. Yeah, Boston was our third game, right? Mm-hmm. Well, it didn't matter. Like, Boston Rangers, we would have cleared it. Buffalo beats Vancouver. Battle of expansion cousins. Pittsburgh, Chicago tie. Detroit crushes the Islanders. Wow. They had 9 wins. The Islanders had 17. And we lose to the Rangers 5-2. Cheevers losing to Davidson again. Wednesday, McNabb went deep. Hedberg, Murdoch, Hedberg, McEwen, and Espo. There's Espo screwing over the Bruins. Philly beats St. Louis, and Toronto loses to Washington. Well, you suck. You lose to Washington. LA beats Colorado. Minnesota beats Vancouver. St. Louis, big win over Atlanta. And Philly, Washington tie. Our next game would have been, I don't know, Montreal shut out by Chicago. Really? Vancouver beats Detroit. Big win for them. or ties and wins. Rangers beat Buffalo and Toronto ties Minnesota. Our next game was against the lowly Avalanche, but we can't. But because we lost the last game, we can't play it. Oh man, 4-3. Gilbert beats Michel Place. Colorado goes by Grotto, Wolf Payman with 2, who will soon be a Leaf the next year. Boston goes by Redmond, Schmaltz, Cashman, and Bobby Miller. I think Buffalo beat Atlanta, LA beat Chicago, Pittsburgh, Montreal beat Chicago in revenge for that other game. Cupcakes beat St. Louis, and Philly beats Washington. Toronto goes to Atlanta on Friday night and loses, and the Rangers crush on Detroit. So our next game is against Buffalo. I think that's for the division lead. Chicago beats Philly, big win for them. Detroit beats Washington. Minnesota beats Pitt. Colorado just can't get in the other way. Did they have a losing streak or something? Rangers others tie, Leafs and Blues tie, and Kings beat the Canucks 4-0. I think Colorado hasn't won in a while. And I'm right. 10 straight losses for the Avalanche. Avalanche. You know what I mean. So we play Buffalo. I think that's for the division. Yep, we're 2 points back to Minnesota's third in our division. Toronto's last. Montreal, LA, Pittsburgh. Montreal getting back. Remember who the fuck they were. Washington, Detroit. They're Rangers, Philly, Islanders. Great teams. Atlanta's 1 game above 500. They would be second in the Smythe, third in our division, and third in the Norris, but they're going to be fourth and would miss the playoffs. Chicago 39 points, Vancouver 25, St. Louis 22, Colorado 15, because Colorado can't fucking win. So yeah. So our goalies have kind of slumped a little bit, but that's what you feel like doing. Anyway, I'm Jeff. I'm going to do